My internet is fine.
Oh, we are live.
Oh, here
now.
we go.
We're live.
We had connection issues. And then we didn't know that the internet had come back in. Now we're live for the show. Bah! There.
Hello, friends.
Hello.
We're here, still comfy, and exciting news. I'm Julia Washington. I'm your host of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous. I am here with...
I'm Natalie Katona. I'm the host of To All the Men I've Tolerated Before. Your everyday look at... Your once a week look at everyday misogyny. I talk about misogyny every day, though. If you want to DM, call,
it's true.
Join the Patreon, any of it.
And we have a special guest this week. Our special guest is Mario Mello, and I will let him introduce himself. But I need y'all to know that he is a Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous alum. Go ahead.
Thank you, guys. I'm Mario Mello from Movies with Mr. Mario, where I do movie reviews and send out all the upcoming news regarding movies, celebrities, and all that entertainment stuff. So, thank you for having me here.
We're excited you're here, Mario. We are gathered here today to discuss Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry, Darling, which released Friday, September 22nd?
23rd. Well, Thursday the 22nd.
Thursday, Friday, September 23rd.
Yes.
Starring Harry Styles and Florence Pugh, with some visitations from Chris Pine, Gemma Chan, Nick Kroll. I don't know why anybody isn't talking about what Nick Kroll being in this movie, and other people.
Olivia Wilde herself.
Olivia Wilde herself is Bunny, which I loved. Secondly, my first question is, at which point did you know that Gemma Chan was going to save the day?
I'm confused by that.
I am too.
Really?
I had a lot of questions.
They didn't give us enough context about Gemma. I need a whole prequel about Gemma.
At dinner, when she went hard for her husband, I was like, oh, she's going to do something to him.
Yeah.
And she's going to be why Flo gets out.
So we need to warn everybody there's lots of spoilers right now.
Oh, thank you, Mario.
I
wrote it in the caption. This is not a spoiler free. This is not a spoiler free show. Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous. We do spoilers. So that is the vibe we're bringing tonight. Thank you, Mario, for reminding me. He's been on the show enough to know.
If you haven't watched it, come back and watch the replay.
Right. Yes. I told the whole internet that I was spoiling the fuck out of this movie because I would not be contained.
We will not be contained, damn it. Okay, so
I will not be censored.
First new question. Tell me what you thought about the movie, because critics hate it.
Wait, are we going back to
critics are men?
No, I read one. Oh, no, actually, the female critic I read from the New York Times wasn't a critic anymore, and she said that her 14-year-old daughter loved it.
Some women are misogynist in disguise. So I had two leaving thoughts on my list for Don't Worry, Darling. The first one was, have you ever watched a movie where it affirmed everything that you knew in your gut and then built an entire brand and a podcast out of? And then my second thought was, when my sister asked me how the movie was, I said, this will be a movie that men will tell us is bad for years to come because it will make them very, very fragile to watch it.
Mario, what were your thoughts?
When I walked out, I was like, dang, what did I just watch? It's one of those ones that's like, did that really happen? And then driving home, I decompress and think about it as I drive home, and by the time I got home I was like, dang, I really enjoyed it a lot. Overall I loved it.
That soundtrack slapped.
The opening song, you cannot go wrong with Ray Charles.
You can't ever go wrong with Ray Charles.
If you want to set the stage for a mid-century film, he is the guy to do it. You've got Palm Springs vibes in this fucking Victory Town, whatever the hell it's called. You've got all this beautiful mid-century architecture. You've got cars from the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. I was like, what is this golden heaven? It's going to be hell.
It's gonna be
Of
hell.
course. It was too perfect.
It was too perfect. Who says goodbye to their husband in just a button-down white t-shirt? A
I have a lot.
brainwashed woman.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about the way that Alice was clearly reprogrammed for the Victory Project compared to the way the other wives were reprogrammed for the Victory Project.
Yeah, you know, it got me thinking because I mean, obviously we're going to talk about this out of order. But when you kind of realize that, you know, program like when you get the confirmation that programming is happening and who Alice was prior to.
Right.
And then it made me wonder, what were the other women like before? Because with Alice, you get the vibe that she is the smartest one in the group out of all those women. Not
Except
that I'm
for
saying, go ahead.
what was the first lady's name that jumped off the roof? Megan?
Margaret?
Margaret. I knew it was an because she found out about it first. So I was like, well, maybe she was a rocket science.
And isn't it always Black women
always
who
Black women.
shed the light on the
Really?
trash that's happening first? I was like, of course, because none of y'all are going to listen to a Black woman. Of course, she's right. Sorry.
I took it as the horror movie where the Black person always dies first.
Right.
And so I was like, oh.
Yeah.
Because it was a horror movie. I love
was.
psychological thrillers.
Same.
Like, fuck me up with a psychological thriller.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up on psychological thrillers. So I think what I was telling Natalie, Mario, after I saw it on Saturday, I was like, it's so like, when people gasped at certain parts of the film, I had these moments of like, how did you not know that was coming? Have you never seen a psychological thriller before? I'm pretty sure the answer is yes.
I'm truly like, I really think that it is a genre that's fallen by the wayside because it hasn't been very popular since, like, remember when we had that entire year where every book was called like Woman on a Train, Gone Woman.
Yeah. Gone Girl.
Woman in Distress.
Yeah. Also, we just want to remind everybody, if you are watching live, because we are using a third party, we can't see your we don't know you're here unless you comment. So go ahead and give us some comments in there. Tell us all the things.
Watching the replay, I would like to know, what do you think the moral of this movie was supposed to be? What was Olivia Wilde trying to teach us? I have two.
So I gotta say, I kind of saw the end coming, but I didn't see the whole ending coming.
Okay.
I was still pretty shocked what it actually was.
Yeah, me too.
I did figure out. I mean, I figured there was some type of brainwashing, like Stepford Wives. It was a total Stepford Wives movie,
or it was like The Village where they were in.
That's what I was thinking. It
or
was like
Antebellum. It had Antebellum vibes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like they're secretly, put in there thinking it's the 50s. But then when we see her as a surgeon, I was like, okay, I was right. But then to see that she's still there in bed in this VR setup, and you're like Clockwork Orange type vibe right there, and I'm just like, oh man, I did not see that coming. And then
so I did see it coming. So the first flash we get from her and she's like, what the shit was that? I was like, okay, we're not in reality. Something's going on. And then everything that, they created the eye shape all the time.
And it would
multiple times. It's like,
rotate.
okay, so then it has something to do with the eyes. So then I'm like, okay, but don't figure it out, Juliana, because you want to enjoy the movie.
And now that I'm thinking about it, like every time they had eye imagery, it was like slowly rotating. I'm like, like the buffer signal.
Yes.
Natalie, like the buffer symbol.
Well, and that's the images they're seeing but in the tent that they're in, which I thought was really smart that, she's having those flashes. I was like, good. That was a good touch, I thought. And then when there was another point too, where I was like, oh, this is, shoot, now I can't remember. were my other thought. But yeah. I think it was a really well done
It
movie.
was it was
And
really
I'm
well done.
really irritated that the critics are like dragging it so hard.
I think people are haters, and I think that people don't like the moral of this story, which is, and I quote, let me get out my notes. Hey kids, husbands are dangerous. Even the ones that look like Harry Styles. And then when they said, I'll do anything to make you happy, it means I'll do anything to make me feel less inadequate. Men.
I mean, if you look back though at the other, like the other Stepford Wives, like the Nicole Kidman one, and then the one way
Mhm.
back when,
The
they didn't get
original.
good. They didn't get good reviews either. So I
No.
think it's that
No.
whole storyline. Yeah, so I totally
Yeah.
agree with
People
you.
do not like movies where women are honest in an art form about their own oppression,
Hmm.
Actually, there's
especially when white women do it.
yeah, the New York Times had a really good article about that, and I'm going to share it in the comments for people to read if they want to. But the author basically says that, I'm pretty sure it's the New York Times, that, Olivia Wilde is basically getting into this what is it called? Shoot. It's a really long article. Maudit is what it's called.
Mhm.
I want to say it's Maudit, and I'm just assuming because I've never heard it. I've only seen it written. But basically, what it means is that it's movies rendered marginal by disrepute, and a lot of female-led films, female movies directed by women tend to get this label, and this author's arguing it's unfairly getting this label.
Of course. Of course.
Because
Because
even people hated Booksmart, and she comments on, a lot of the reviews I read were like, Booksmart was so much better, and Olivia Wilde, and what is she doing? And I was like,
y'all hated it.
yeah, like nobody
Y'all were
enjoyed
haters.
Booksmart when it
I
first came out,
remember.
except for me and my kid. We left the theater like, that was the greatest movie we've seen all year.
And now that I've seen the movie, I do really understand why Florence Pugh was so pissed off that all anyone could talk about was Harry Styles was going to go down on her. She's
Yeah,
like, there's a lot to this movie. It's going
yeah.
to be a lot. And it's not just going to be Harry banging me backwards on a table. Like,
And every review I read today pulled in the drama.
mm-hmm.
Every single one referenced the drama that was surrounding the film, which I think moves them away from what the film is actually about.
So there have been allegations that the drama was fabricated so that the movie would have a great opening weekend,
I
which
mean,
honestly, white men do that all the time.
they did have a great opening weekend. They were number one.
Yeah, people pay people to go to their movies. People buy enough books to where their book ends up on the New York bestsellers list. Like everything is a scam, people. I can't help it that you're not in on the game. Um, so I felt really sad that we're still at a place in our society where Olivia Wilde couldn't feel comfortable making a kind of cutting edge, not Marvel movie with no vampires or Thor or anything, and have to like rely on let's start some petty rumors so people come. You down, Harry? And Harry's like, yeah, I'll pretend to spit on Chris. Yeah, yeah. But I think Chris and Flo weren't down, and that's why they removed themselves from the drama.
Well, when you think about Chris Pine's body of work too, like he doesn't really play into the paparazzi, and if they do find him, he's very much like, here's the books I just bought. support writers, right? Like he's not like some of these other celebs who are like eating it up. And I don't know, it's interesting. Mario, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the movie structure and everything, because you do have a lot of you and Natalie both are more. I've moved away from horror films because I can't do, like, when they get gory, I can't hang. But like this kind of psychological thriller, I can do all day every day. but also my knowledge base on films like this are from like 50 years ago because that's what I grew up on with my folks. So anything modern, like Hated the Village, I had it figured out like that, and I was so irritated that everybody thought it was brilliant. Same with, well, Sixth Sense was pretty good, but anyway, go ahead.
I think it was a very good. Like I said, I kind of saw it coming. I think because I've seen so many movies, I
Mm-hmm.
saw most of it coming. But I think that's why I enjoyed it so much because I still was surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people in my audience did gasp a lot. They're like, and then just to see like Harry Styles as kind of the bad guy,
That's right.
like on the outside world,
Mm-hmm.
like even
Mm-hmm.
more than he was in the inside, like the virtual world, I think got people.
And
Um,
like a mediocre bad guy at that. Like, what was
yes,
his greatest flaw? His greatest flaw was that he was insecure.
yeah, he couldn't keep a job,
He
all
couldn't keep
that
a wife
stuff.
and he couldn't keep a job.
So it was funny
Yeah.
because during the his like little monologue at the end where he's like telling her like why he did this and stuff, like and he's supposed to be like this big old monologue for him.
Yeah.
Like everyone in
Important.
the audience was laughing about it. Like they were just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like they can't take him seriously. Like
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
the
it was
big
really
Harry.
funny because I was just like, "Okay." Like,
Oh, well, the gaslighting, the quintessential
yeah,
gaslighting moment where it's like, I did it for you. I did it because
yeah.
you weren't dancing anymore. And then I reprogrammed you to be distracted by your entire environment if I gave you an orgasm. Okay. And that was for you. It was for
Yeah.
you.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it. I've seen several Mel reviewers on like Twitter and stuff that actually did praise it, and they say, you know, don't believe the majority of the critics. So
Oh,
I mean,
that's good.
I do
That's
think
good.
there are um, men out there that see both sides. So I don't think not everyone is misogynistic. I feel no, don't get me wrong, there are still tons, and we still have a lot of work to do. But at least out of the reviews I was reading, I did see several men defending the movie,
Oh, that's
especially
good.
especially like supporting Florence Pugh and
Mm-hmm.
just saying like I'm glad she stayed out of the drama and stuff like that. Like
Her
Yeah.
she's better.
performance is flawless.
Well,
I was like, give this girl her Oscar. Why didn't
yeah.
they release this in December so it'd be fresh on everyone's mind so she'd get nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress because her performance was so good.
Down
Yeah.
to her pinky toe. And then
Yes.
like I read a petty review where someone was like, "Well, Florence's performance came off manic and like over the top in
What?
comparison to others." I was like, "You could have rewritten that entire whole sentence to go, Harry Styles couldn't act and therefore it was really jarring to watch Florence be a pro."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was hard sometimes with some scenes with Harry because he did sound a little bit like he was reading off a script. Bless his heart. Um and I think the only scene that he did do, I thought he delivered well, which makes me sad for your audience, Mario, because the scene that I thought he did deliver well was when he was like, I did this all for
I did it for
you.
you.
I was like, finally, you figured it out. You figured
Yeah.
Well,
out where the acting chops are. Good job, son.
Well, and honestly, I don't think Harry's character was actually supposed to be at any point of the movie the center focus of the story. Like you could
No.
have
Right.
swapped him out with anyone
Right.
and
I
anyone could
do.
have done the part and anyone could
Yeah,
have played the bumbling husband
I
who
agree. I'm also going to add, I do think you need a very like attractive,
yes.
bordering on pretty man. Like, I can't see Shia LaBeouf in this film just because I think he has a weaker jawline, like he's not a bad looking dude, but the polished mid-century 60s man, I don't see that look on him.
However, I will say we need to go outside of the Florence Pugh of the Alice and Harry Styles home and look at the other husbands besides
Yeah.
Chris Pine because I
Yeah.
was like, of course Nick Kroll couldn't pull Olivia Wilde unless it was The Sims. Like And then like there was that, and oh my gosh, did you guys watch Big Love on HBO when it was
No.
popular? Oh my
Mhm.
god.
Mm-mm.
So the really skinny kid who has the newest couple.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Violet and
Yeah. The male
Ted?
part of that couple, he was the oldest son in Big Love, and he was just as dorky and lanky and like cringy as that kid who was like, I really thought I get to talk to Kyle today. And I was like, ooh, he hasn't grown at all. Good for him. So I almost thought that like because when they went to like basement Harry Styles where he was like greasy and listening to
Yeah.
an Andrew Tate podcast, I was like, oh, it could have been Shia LaBeouf because Shia LaBeouf is creepy. He's
Yeah, like he could do
creepy.
the outside world version.
Yeah, and then they
Yeah.
clean him up for the simulation
Yeah.
because that was
I
very much
still
part of it too.
Yeah, but I still can't see it. I still can't see it because again, I'm going back to the jawline. Like I don't think Shia LaBeouf has the strong like, Disney Prince jawline that the character of what's his name? Harry Styles character's
I don't
name?
know what his
Jack.
name is.
Jack, thank
Jack.
you. Even though Jack is like a super basic character, super, all these things, like there's still something about Jack and Alice being the most beautiful couple next to
Everyone
Chris
else.
Pine and Gemma.
Mhm.
And I think call me superficial, but I think that's actually a really important nuance for the film.
Mm.
Because Olivia
Yeah.
Wilde's gorgeous, right? But also she's married to Nick Kroll. And then you have the gal from A League of Their Own.
Mhm.
Like, who's even her husband? I don't even remember. It's a completely forgettable man.
Yeah.
Like,
Which one? The pregnant lady?
yeah.
She was she had the Indian guy.
Yeah.
it was
Now I
the
was like,
Which
now
Indian
it
which
came back
husband.
is
to me.
which is funny because he's also in WandaVision, who's also stuck in a virtual
In a
reality world, which is kind of
Oh,
funny.
that is funny. Sir, you're being typecast.
I can we talk about like how Chris Pine started his whole cult through a podcast like he was Joe Rogan? I was like, look at Harry Styles. It's 3 a.m. He's clicking another episode. He's like, yeah, Joe, tell him what the downfall of America was. It was that they could get abortions and jobs. Mhm. Or like Andrew Tate on TikTok, he's another asshole who women are always like, why does this guy have a microphone?
Yeah. 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 The guy that plays the doctor
Oh, yeah.
is
Timothy Sims.
He's one of my favorite
Sims?
character actors because he
he's on
commits.
Veep.
Yeah.
He's the dorky guy. So when he
Mhm.
walks in, I was like, this guy's going to be a creep. I've never seen this guy be anything but a creeper, whether it's a dorky creeper or a
Mhm.
predatory creeper.
Yeah. Or like, how shocking was it to be a woman living in 2022 and watching like Chris Pine and Harry Styles lead a room full of men being like, this is our world. Whose world? Our world. And
Okay,
I'm
but
like,
did you but
oh.
after that whole dance song and like when he forces Harry to come up on stage and
And
like
dance
dance.
like a monkey.
Yeah,
I'm
dance,
like, what's
monkey,
happening?
dance. Like you might as well have been shooting guns at his feet to make him dance. And then just how like I thought Harry again, I thought he did a really good job because he delivers performances better when there's no lines for
Uh-huh.
him. I thought he did a really good job of like having panic in his eyes
Uh-huh.
while still like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. This is part of the game. This is part of the game. And like his face was so perfectly acted in that scene because you feel his panic, but you also feel like I got to keep it up because I don't want to lose it.
And like at that point, I was like, oh, he's fully committed to whatever this is. It's
Yeah.
signed, sealed, and delivered. And whatever Flo has to say is going to be a lie. So he
Mhm.
can get a pay raise, or, he gets to suck Chris Pine's dick on Fridays, or whatever the perks were. Because the men had to go back out in the real world, right? And like
Yeah.
To work.
to work in a
To work and
factory
pay
that
for
Chris
the.
Pine like worked at. Like, where did they go?
I'm not
They had to
that
work
part.
9 to 5 somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part wasn't fully clear on where they went to do. And the other part that I thought was really interesting, the pregnant lady whose character name I forgot, which is not fair. she was very gossipy
She
about
was.
Bobby.
all
It
the
was
things.
Bobby.
And it's
Was
like,
it?
you know, that the husband's telling her this, or at least to me, it felt like the husband's telling her this to sort of throw her off the trail of
Mhm.
like what's actually happening. And then this leads me to the question of, when did you guys know that Olivia Wilde was in on it? Or not in on it, but knew that it wasn't, like,
When
knew the truth.
That she was signed, fully signed, sealed, delivered. I think it was the bathroom scene where she gets so hurt by Florence Pugh
Okay.
for wanting to know the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that for you too, Mario?
It did, yeah. I knew she knew something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't, but then, like, I knew she knew it, like, but I figured she was probably a bad guy too, like, in on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then just to realize that her story is she just lost her
So
kids, so she
tragic.
likes it. Yeah, and so for her,
Yeah,
it was
so
more of
when
a
you-
tragic, and she
Right.
chose to be there. So that did surprise me, that part. But yeah, I did know
Yeah.
she knew something.
Because
For m-
she wasn't like angry at Flo. She wasn't trying to redirect her or gaslight
Right.
her or whatever. She was literally just like, I've just lost my only friend in this fucking simulation
Yeah.
because she's gonna figure it out.
Yeah. For me, it was when they were at the pool and the pregnant girl was like, my husband said, and this, that, and the other thing. And she's looking around and she's like, basically gives her the shut the fuck up face.
Mm-hmm.
I was like,
Hmm.
girl's in on it. We don't know how yet, but she knows the truth.
But
So
then I think she
then-
really, I think
Go
she
for
really
it.
cared about Alice as a person
Yeah.
too, because
Mhm.
I think it was just her trying to protect her, because she even said, like, you know, they're gonna kill you, like, they
Yeah,
kill
like
you
you
here,
have to
you're
get
dead.
out. You have
So
to
it was
get
like,
out.
to her, it was not just shut the f up because I'm losing my friend, but I'm protecting you too.
Well, but like in
because-
the pool, yeah, like the whole time, I think that's what she's doing generally for all of
Yeah.
the women. She's like
Mhm.
being mindful of like, don't, because they will. Because what did she say? Like, if a man dies in here, he dies in real life, but they
Mhm.
will come and find you.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
get your
So-
body.
Mm-hmm. And she's so vulnerable. Like all the women, you're in such a vulnerable state with the way they have this setup, which, oh my God.
Because you're basically, because I think also Harry was like in charge of like IVing her fluids and like
Yeah.
keeping her lotioned up and supple
Yeah.
and all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like having my eyes open. So yeah, you would definitely
No.
have to. No, I mean like during the day, but like forced open, right? Like when people are like, "Oh, you should get LASIK for your vision." One, I can't because I have astigmatism, and two, you have to sit there with your eyes wide open
You
while
have
they
to
do
smell
it.
it.
Like I'm good.
I'm good. You have to hear it. You have to smell it. It's a whole sensory overload
You would have
issue.
to dope me up so hard to make this happen.
Don't watch Final Destination 4 then.
No,
I
I
love Final
watched the first Final Destination. I'm good. Like I will never do a Final Destination
Natalie
again.
knows what I'm talking about.
I love the Final Destination franchise.
me too.
Oh my god.
No, I'm cool. I'm cool. It's not my vibe.
So can we talk about, so like Olivia Wilde was in it for a tragic reason. Like this
Yeah.
was part of her grief cycle. And who even, like, I couldn't even tell if like, so is this something her husband's just doing? Because like, what do you do when your wife is
Well,
in
and then
grief
it
and
made
you
me
won't?
think. It made me think: are they even really a married couple? In
Right.
real, like
Or
maybe
did
that's
he snatch
It's
her?
a simulation, yeah.
Because one of the questions that runs through when we're figuring out that that's what's going on is, who is your preferred wife? And then they go and body snatch them and put them in a tent. So I was like, well, could I pay like extra money and my wife is Natalie Dormer? Like, what's going on? Is there like a pay plan, or is it like, well, I would really like it if my wife enjoyed having sex with me again. So I guess her.
oh my gosh.
But then the Gemma Chan of it all, where it's like, what was in this for Gemma Chan? Because that's what confuses me when she stabs Chris Pine through the
Mhm.
gut. I'm like,
Mhm.
cool girl, you're sick of being his doll. But she whispers to him like, it's my turn now. Well, what the fuck does that mean, Gemma? Are you just taking over the Sims factory? Like, what's happening?
I think it's supposed to be open like that. I think that's the point. Because then, not that I'm saying there needs to be a sequel because sequels are too much, but I
No.
think because we don't get a ton of backstory on her and we don't know where she is, but you can feel that she's trapped too.
Mhm.
Like she has to play the perfect wife. She does the long stare of being exasperated so well that when she like took that knife and did the deed, I was like, that's my girl. You're fucking done. I don't know what's going to happen to you. I don't know if you're going to be also as evil as Chris Pine, but at this moment, you basically called off the guard.
Good
And
for her.
maybe you'll go free too. I don't know, but you did it, girl.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Because if you think about it, if it wasn't for the whole, like, I was just reprogrammed to be some moron's fantasy, it's not a bad deal. Like, if it was just like a woman-only commune and it was like, we have pretty dresses and we get to sit by the pool and, like, we always have bacon, like
Natalie.
and we killed Chris Pine, so we're just gonna live our best, like, A-line dress life, and we're gonna
Femme
shop.
forward life.
But then who's going to take care of you when you're lying there? Because the
Well,
man
that's
had to take
true.
care of you to
That's
keep you
true.
alive. So
That's right. Mhm.
It's a complicated system, but I
They
do
should just
appreciate too how you sort of see Flo's progression into reality, going back into
Mhm.
reality. Like the first time we meet her, they're so happy and in love, and she's wearing the white button down, and she's like the sexy little kitten housewife.
And she does
Um,
baby talk all the time.
and then and then you know the first blip, the next day she's like in her beautiful house thingy or whatever, and then as she's slowly declining, it's becoming less and less polished and
Mhm.
less desirable. But you know, he's in whatever world he's in, because apparently he's in more than one world, and you know, he's just kind of living his life and figuring it out. And then when she does get, you know, electroshocked back into it, and she's back in her like, I'm a sexy kitten, look at how pretty I am, and you're just like, oh girl, you can't fight against electroshock therapy. Like there's no fighting against that. Like that is a
No.
thing that will fuck you up.
Mm-mm. But yeah, the baby talk got me when like her plate falls off her head or something, and she's like, "It's not even fair because I was doing a good job and she distracted me." I was like,
she did that in Little Women too, though. If you
yeah,
remember, she would do
yes.
that. So I don't know if it's just I don't know.
Part of her
No,
process.
Florence Pugh was
Yeah.
the only person who can make me feel anything for Amy March. So good for her.
I mean, also true. And it helps that they sort of restructured Amy a little bit too in the newest version, because, you know, that speech she gives to Lori does not exist in the book and would never
Mm-mm.
exist. But I agree with Greta Gerwig's decision to add it because I feel like it was implied from Louisa May Alcott. Can we also talk about, like, Chris Pine's character is not just a creep, he's a mega creep, because
Mhm.
like he walks in on Harry and Flo and just is like, yeah, I'm watching. And you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, this is a
No.
cult." And part of getting into Chris's Pine's like cult is that he gets to fuck your wife. Like it's that situation.
Oh, it's just made me so uncomfortable. Plus, there was like an old dude one seat over. There wasn't anybody in between us. And I'm just like, I'm not comfortable with how many
I'm
people
not.
over 65 are in this movie theater with some of these scenes happening.
Well, but that was my
Sitting this close to me. If it was a packed house, I wouldn't care, right? Because it's whatever. But it's not a packed house. There's 20 people in here.
So that was my first inclination, though, that the sex was actually part of the gaslighting, the simulation, and her reprogramming, because you
Mm,
can see it on her face where she's like, I should be feeling something about this, or I should be like telling
about Chris
Harry to
Pine
get,
watching.
yeah, about Harry getting off me. Like she says nothing. She's just
Yeah.
making frightened eye contact with Chris Pine. She's
Yeah.
not alerting her husband that they've been caught or anything. And I'm like, oh, that's how he gets her back into it.
Yeah. You know what I just realized? We didn't do a summary of the movie for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. So let me just do that really quickly. And friends, if you listen to Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, you know that I love to pull them from Google, because Google sometimes says things and you're like, what? In the 1950s, Alice and Jack live in the idealized community of Victory, an experimental company town that houses the men who work on a top secret project. While the husbands toil away, the wives get to enjoy the beauty, luxury, and debauchery of their seemingly perfect paradise. However, when cracks in her idyllic life begin to appear, exposing flashes of something sinister lurking below the surface, Alice can't help but question exactly what she's doing in Victory. See, and I got a 60s vibe, not a 50s vibe,
Yeah.
but I don't think it
was,
matters.
I think it was also kind of a mashup of both of the decades.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how the frame is your life is perfect, woman, because you get to be in this idyllic setting. You get to go shopping, you get to go swimming, and I have to go work in this gross, disgusting thing. But like, as we were talking about over the weekend, Natalie and I were talking about over the weekend, there's that level of stay-at-home wifedness isn't
Mhm.
a privilege for everybody, right? Like, women who think that like life was better when you were a stay-at-home wife who did take care of all the things and it was so much easier and better. That's not the truth for everybody. Like, my people in the 50s and later were maids raising their
Mhm.
children, someone else's children, so it's kind of like, whose perfect world is this? Because all I see is a bunch of intelligent women sort of withering away, not allowed to have any potential or minds of their own. Or like with the pregnant gal, they're like, oh, she's always pregnant. Remember how that's the one that's always pregnant? Like, that sounds awful.
Yeah. Always. And I think that guy must have had a pregnancy fetish, which, like, no shame, but I was like, okay, so if Olivia Wilde's children are fake and they're the only
No,
children who we've seen, how do you
no,
have a
hers were
fake
the
baby?
oh yeah, they were fake.
Or maybe Gemma Chan's kids were those creepy kids.
They were the creepy kids. That was their kid.
That
Yeah,
was
Gemma
Gemma Chan.
Chan's kids were the
The ones
creepy
that were
kids, and then
serving.
Yeah.
yeah,
Were
the ones that were
serving the
The
serving.
food.
twins.
And they were dressed what like, is it the twins from The Shining?
Yeah.
That's what they reminded me of.
Yeah. Tweedledee and
Come play
Tweedledum.
with us, Danny.
Oh, it's frozen. Just a moment. Here we go. Here we go. Are we back?
Yeah.
We're back.
For that brief moment, we had a
Um,
frozen moment.
But yeah,
Mm.
well, and I think what's so timely about this movie coming out this weekend is last week was the week that TikTok chose to get me onto the side of TikTok where women are glorifying the 50s and 60s and being like, I don't know why women want to work. And I don't know why like everyone thinks that this is better. Like, equality is better. Is it? Now we have to sit in an office, but also now the younger women don't want to work. And this, I was like, oh, we really are just like, we just
Oh,
going
no.
right back
Yeah.
to the aprons.
Yeah.
And
My
the
grandparents,
Prozac.
both of my grandmothers made it very clear. One worked as a maid and one did odd jobs as a secretary or whatever else, or whoever would hire a Black woman that day. And made it very clear to me, you need to have your own money.
Yeah. 100%. You can't get divorced without money. You can't wake up and look at that man and be like, he's not great. Without knowing that you're going to have to like pay a lawyer and like also support yourself after probably years out of the workforce and all of it.
I still feel like it should be more expensive to get a marriage license than to get a divorce.
Correct.
Because if it's more expensive to get it, not a wedding, because weddings are expensive, period. Throwing a party is just a big deal. But like the license itself should not be $37. Like, anybody can scrap together $37. I think they might even be cheaper in Vegas. Like, anyway, back. Oh,
but
sorry.
I think that was what Harry Styles was starting to spiral about, where he was like, well, if she's the one working, if she's the one that's bringing in money, then I have like no purpose in my home. And I'm clearly not cleaning anything because I'm just listening to Joe Rogan all day long. I can't even wash my own hair.
So I also kind of took it as, he's so convicted in his belief that he wants to make his wife's life easier because he's so convinced that she feels her life is
Yeah.
hard. And, working 30-hour shifts, which should not be allowed even in the medical profession. Like, I
No.
understand some surgeries take a really long time, but there really has to be a standard of care for our medical staff too, I would think. But to me it kind of read like he's like, I'm trying to, and he screams that at her, you get to be here in this perfect world while I have to go back out there so we can pay for it. And she's just her whole like vibe of like, I can't believe you think that this is what I wanted. Like,
Mhm.
clearly you didn't talk to your wife about it.
Right.
If you don't choose the medical profession to become a surgeon unless you have a passion for it. Like, that's not a thing that someone's just like, I think I'm gonna become a doctor, and then spends the next 12 years and then decides, you know what? I just wasted 12 years of my life. At some point through medical school, you're going to realize, I don't know, when you're cutting in on a cadaver, that it's not for you. And I understand some people leave after 15 years or 10 years or whatever, but like, school weeds out pretty much people who aren't into it.
Yeah. That's the beauty of student teaching. It
Mhm.
makes all of the people who don't have the gut for it have the gut for it.
I sure don't have the gut to be a doctor. Are you kidding me?
Um but I think what's also fascinating about psychological thrillers, and I felt the same way about the best blockbuster of the summer, Bodies, 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 is
Oh my
that we're
gosh.
always like, "Oh my gosh, how is like how is someone outside of our universe, or like the aliens, or like someone's gonna press a button and like that's what's gonna end the world?" And it's like, we don't need the aliens to do it, like, or like God to decide that he's gonna smite us and flood us one more time. Like, we're doing a really great job of doing it. Like, we're ending our own world. We're even going backwards to do it. Like, if we are currently living in a simulation and have been since 2012, it's because men won the war against women. Like, that's what's happened.
Yeah. Did you guys have a favorite character in the film?
Florence Pugh.
I was gonna say Florence Pugh, like there's no question.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She
But
was the
I
character.
did really like Bunny, so
Yeah.
I thought Olivia Wilde did a really great job,
Yeah. The kid
especially
Go ahead.
especially considering what we heard about her like shirking her directing duties and like being a terror on set and fighting with Flo and all of it. I was like,
But didn't the crew come out and say like that
yeah,
never happened?
exactly. The crew was like, "No, stop." Like,
Yeah, like, you stop with your lies. The kids that played her kids in the movie, or at least the daughter anyway, that was her daughter.
was it?
Mhm.
was it? Oh,
That's cute.
Mhm.
Thanks, Jason, for letting that happen, signing whatever paper you had to sign and then have delivered to set. Stand up guy, Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso himself.
Oh, I love Ted Lasso.
I
It's
loved.
so hard.
I Here's my other hot take. I can love Harry Styles despite the fact that he's a bad actor. You don't have to
Yeah.
be good at all the things.
Yeah, I kind of got this vibe, like, because there's always one from the boy band who breaks out and can do it
Yeah,
all, right? Like Justin Timberlake is the only one I can think of from that
but
era.
can't. Nick Lachey tried to act for a while, but it ended up on reality TV.
Yeah, that's not. I mean, I'm lumping that particular era in one.
Oh, you're just doing Justin? I don't think
Yeah.
Justin does a very good job in movies. Like, I don't think
I
he's
think he does. I
In the
great.
think
right role, he does.
he's done movies where he's performed really well because he's in the right role. But like, and I think everyone thought that Harry would be the next boy band breakout because he did such a great job in his solo career and is doing a great job in his solo career. And it's just like all the press for My Policeman, which I am still very excited to see because I love the actor in it. He was in The Last Kingdom, and then Emma Corbin. She
don't
played
know.
Diana in The Crown. Anyway, so some of the cast, I was just like, oh, I love these people. I'm so excited. And I love looking at Harry. Okay. And then when he was talking about how the movie's about wasted time, and I was like, did we watch the same trailer? Because I got that this movie was about a man who doesn't understand his sexuality, and it's the mid-century. So
You
now
know,
there's a lot of heartache. And maybe wasted time is a theme, but I didn't feel like wasted time came
maybe he
through
meant
in the trailer.
like romantic waste of time. I don't know. He doesn't seem very bright.
And then
Like
when he said about this, I love this movie because it feels like a
like a
movie.
movie. And then Chris Pine withered away into dust.
It was
I mean,
funny.
honest,
I was
go.
reading some um, like blogs and stuff, and they said that Harry did really bad interviews during the Venice Film Festival, so that's why you haven't seen him on like talk shows promoting the movie because
Yeah.
nobody wants to interview him because they're like, yeah, he's horrible.
And you know
Yeah.
what? If he's not bright, that's fine too. Like, you don't have to be good at all of the things for Natalie to love you. Like, do your little songs, wear your glittery outfits, make out with Shania
Oh,
Twain.
I
Like,
love that
stay
video so
in
hard from
that
Coachella.
lane.
I think he would do better as like a supporting role, not a
Yeah.
lead role, because he was in Dunkirk and he had some lines and
Oh,
he was
that's
fine
right.
in that. Like
Oh,
he
I
was
didn't see
fine.
Dunkirk.
He needs a
I didn't know that he
five-liner.
was in it. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he
Honestly,
was in it. Why didn't they talk about that more?
I think they did.
They did because it was this. I think that was his first starring role,
I don't watch war
but he was
movies.
support.
Oh,
I
interesting.
just watch it because it's Christopher Nolan.
I mean, I don't
I
watch
have a
them.
hard time with more war-ish type movies,
Right.
but that's a whole other conversation. Apparently, I can't function unless it's a rom-com, you guys.
Apparently not. This hour and a half is brought to you by me needing to know if Chris Pine is in fact okay. Like, are you fine, Chris? I realize that they made you do a lot of bullshit for this movie. I realize that they made you babysit Harry the entire time, and I know that the Dungeons and Dragons movie is making you babysit Hugh Grant the entire time.
Oh my god!
So I just
Chris
like
Pine's
you
in his
can
babysitting British men
right.
phase of career.
Like, you can reach out, Chris Pine, if you're not fine. However, I do love this evolution of Chris Pine only wearing silk pajamas everywhere
Oh,
that he
his
goes.
grandma beach chic or whatever it's
Yes.
called.
He
Yeah.
is dressing like all of our great aunts who had a roommate for their entire life.
Yeah, yeah.
And I love it.
Yeah, I still think he's adorable.
Great Aunt Chic. I would hang out with Chris Pine any day of the week. Like, I have dreams where I'm going to the like Dungeons and Dragons premiere, and
Uh-huh.
it's just like me, Hugh, and Chris just like shooting the shit. Hugh Grant making his little BDSM jokes, and me being like, "What do you know about it, old man?" And then Chris Pine like just
Remember when
laughing
he
because
got
I'm
picked up
charming.
with a prostitute and when he was
Sex
dating Liz
worker.
Hurley? That's where it probably started.
Justice for that sex worker. She
Yes,
can't help
'cause
it that Hugh Grant was cheating on. What was her name?
Exactly.
Divine. What was her name?
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember.
You used to all know her name.
I'm sure if we Googled it, it'll come
Rest
up.
in memory, that woman that
Yeah.
Hugh Grant paid for a blowjob.
Yeah.
I feel like we blow blowjobs way out of proportion. Like, I don't know. I don't care that Hugh Grant or our president got a
I was gonna
blowjob.
say or Bill Clinton, who cares?
Don't care.
I mean, I feel like for how often the paparazzi captures Chris Pine coming out of a bookstore, I feel like he and I need to go to the bookstore together.
Chris reads. He didn't want to hear Harry call a movie a movie. He was like,
Right?
of course.
He reads like deep
Listen.
shit because when I'm just Google Chris Pine pop, because he's holding up the spines and you're just like, oh, I see what you're reading, Chris, and I think that you are an intelligent man. Thank you, sir.
Literally, like, the look that he gave after Harry Styles went, "It's a movie that feels like a movie because it's a movie." I was like, oh, my grandma Peg used to make that face at me right before she'd like threatened to backhand me because I was being such a dumbass. And then I was
Yeah.
like, that's Chris Pine's like, oh, you think you're real damn cute. Look, don't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Like, he's embarrassed, he's disappointed, he's gonna
yeah.
make you pay for that later.
Mm-hmm. Mario, I want to know your opinion about the cinematography because I know you pay attention to that stuff. Not
I
that
was gonna
I
say,
don't, but you pay attention more than I do.
I was gonna say it's so beautiful.
It
Like
is a
just
Mm-hmm.
beautiful movie.
the housing and just the like the pool, like the shopping center, even like the mountains, just like the mountain
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
display and stuff. That whole car chasing at the end was just beautifully shot. Like
Yes.
you just go in and you go out and you're just like, oh my god,
Her
Yeah.
in
like it
that
was great.
bus on her own, that was a good scene too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Now,
Do we know where they shot the film?
no, I can figure it
no.
out though.
Because
One
I
of
feel like
the
the intention is for it to feel like Palm Springs, like that. Because the Palm Springs was like the playground to. I mean, it still kind of is a playground to celebs, but not in the way it was in Lucille Ball's day.
It was Palm Springs.
Look
They
at
filmed it in Palm
you.
Springs. Oh, I'm so
Filming
proud of
Look
myself for
at
figuring that
Palm
you.
out.
Springs, yeah, and LA,
You
but mostly
knew
Palm
it.
Springs.
Yeah.
One of the dings that Olivia is getting is that she spent too much time on her atmosphere and not enough time on her character development and story. And
Oh,
I was like,
interesting.
everybody hates it when we take a moment to take in the landscape and to
I
get to
feel like
know the like fucking area that we're in.
that's a character in the film. And it needed to and I don't feel like it was more fleshed out than than the human characters in the film. Like
Hmm.
you fully at least I did fully understood, Bunny and her husband's role in the world. The pregnant lady and her husband, like you get it. Like you could drop in on any
Mm-hmm.
given day and fully understand the dynamic, fully understand who these people are, who's going to gossip about what, like I mean, and maybe because I lived in a version of that world with like mom world with kids for a while. I don't know. I'm not going to assume that's why I fully got it because
Well, and
I feel like it was fleshed out really, really well.
honestly, I went in to the movie thinking that Alice and Jack were going to be the new couple in town. So when it
Mm.
opened it up and they were clearly like well established and Jack's
Mhm.
on his way to a promotion and all that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Mario?
I was really thinking. So that did give me a question. Like, what was the promotion? Like, what did he have to do to get that promotion in real
Right.
life? Because Nick Kroll already had it because it was The Ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Nick Kroll already was in that promotion, and the other two guys, the other husbands, were like vying for it too. Like, oh, I hope he picks me,
I wonder
and they
if
picked
it's
Wow.
like
Jack.
a recruitment process for the Victory Project.
Oh,
Maybe.
it's a pyramid scheme.
What if
Not
yeah,
only is it Sims, but it's Sims but with a pyramid scheme.
like and
Here's your
that's
MLM
and
anti
that's why
MLM story
and that's why they have to leave
because they're recruiting people.
cuz they're recruiting other sad lonely men.
Hmm.
I mean, again, and in Olivia Wilde's case, she's the one who was like, "Honey, let's do this," or at least that's what I assumed when she said that she lost her kids.
Yeah.
But it's still
Yeah.
mostly the men.
Mm.
It's just really like refreshing. And I told Natalie this on Saturday to see a movie that's not trying too hard to be smart. It's just smart. And it makes me like, what, like how it bums me out that everybody hates it. Because it's not trying too hard at all.
Well,
It's not a simple plot, but you follow along, you kind of figure out what's going on. I didn't think that because I figured out what was going on, that didn't ruin it for me. It kept me engaged to see if I was fucking right.
well, and you know what it made me remember? It made me remember all of the period pieces, television shows that were about women that ABC or another American television company tried to do, and they got one season and were done. Like I love the
Mhm.
Christina Ricci one about the airline.
Hmm.
Oh, I forgot about that show.
Pan
What
Pan
was
Am.
that
Am.
called?
I loved Pan
Pan
Am.
Am.
Oh yeah, Pan
I also
Am.
the one about like where they threw all of the astronauts into the same neighborhood and it was all about how the wives had to
Was it
maintain
Space Wives
it might have been or
or
first
Astronaut
wives,
Wives?
astro wives.
Something like that, yeah.
Space Wives.
Space Wife.
Yeah.
I like my title better.
And they literally had to just like keep up appearances because, like, what if your husband didn't get to go to space because your hair didn't look great? Like, or the one that took place in
I
the
mean, they would have told me 55, 60 years ago that I need to fix my hair. Nowadays I can wear my natural hair, but that was not a thing that you had to, even curly haired girls who were white. It was not a thing.
And then like the one in the 70s about the women who were running the feminist magazine, it got like 8 episodes and then they canceled it. And then I think Hulu or Netflix were supposed to pick it up and then they
The one
didn't.
about the 7. You're not talking about Good Girls Revolt, are you?
Yeah, that one.
They were working at a magazine that was supposed to be like Time magazine, but it wasn't Time magazine.
But it was the 60s or the 70s.
Yeah, and then
And Gloria Steinem was a character in that show, wasn't she? Or like someone that they were always talking
Nora
about.
Ephron
Or Nora
was
Ephron.
a character. Meryl Streep's daughter played her, and then she leaves to go to the Post, who actually is willing to print women because no magazine will print women at that time.
Yeah.
Which is true. Like Nora Ephron literally left to go to a print publication that was willing to publish her.
It's literally all of these stories where it's like, well, this is how women were choosing to do what they needed to do during the times of their own oppression, where like everyone's like, we don't want to watch that. Who wants to watch women talking about like how we won't pay them enough money? Who wants to listen to women talk about how they should have body autonomy? Like, what do you mean that I, Harry Styles, don't own your body and can't program it to be my living sex pot little sex doll?
Yeah. I wonder too if somebody else had because even the screenwriter I can see it. Shoot. Hold on.
And so another
Katie
thing
Silberman, she wrote the script, but it's based off of something else written by 2 guys, I believe, as I was reading in one of my reviews that I looked up today. And like even the screenwriter's getting, people are kind of giving her flack for not writing a very well developed script. And I thought, wow, that's very interesting. And I wonder, because we talk about this over on Pop Culture a few times whenever it is relevant, in the hands of a male director and a female writer, stories are very, very different. When you have a female writer and a female director, or a male director and a male writer, but it's a female centric story, like the outcome is always different. And I wonder what would have happened and what would be the conversation if Olivia Wilde was Oliver Wilde, and, would he be getting criticized like this?
Well, I mean,
dating the star of the movie 10 years his junior, like, hello, like that shit's been happening in Hollywood all the time with male directors. Like, look at Brad Pitt just came out dating what's her face, like that was confirmed today or something like that. Oh no, they're not dating, they're just talking and not dating yet.
Like,
but
they're
she's
14.
like, yeah, and she's like, I don't know, younger than everybody on this call, and he's old enough to, be my father.
Well, and let's think about all of the movies that were run by men that like literally they're just like a garbled nothing of a story, and then we applaud them for years to come. Like fucking Forrest Gump. Like, what the fuck is Forrest Gump about?
Oh, don't come at Forrest Gump. I like that movie.
Like, but do you like that movie, or were we conditioned to be like, this is a great movie?
No, I do actually like that movie.
It's a weird ass movie.
I think that's the point.
There are other movies where I end up watching them and I'm like, Fight Club. Every man wants to build his entire life around fucking Fight Club, and I'm like,
I like Chuck Palahniuk, who's the author of Fight Club, so like that's a hard one for me too.
Well, then you come up with one.
No,
I'll back you up.
No, I'm going to switch topics. I want to ask, what gossip around this movie did you get into the most?
Chris Pine hating Harry Styles. That's all I wanted. I wanted petty memes of Chris Pine looking like he wanted to pass away. Like, I didn't give a fuck that Olivia Wilde was was fucking Harry Styles. Number one, I thought we were all well aware of that.
Yeah.
I thought we knew that. I was like, why are people surprised that she's fucking Harry Styles? I feel like I've known that for 5 years.
Well, because they started dating because they met on set, right? When did they actually film this movie?
Last year sometime.
Was it
probably.
last year?
Or like Florence Pugh like not wanting to work with Shia LaBeouf. I was like, that's valid. No one should want to work with Shia LaBeouf. No one wants to watch Shia LaBeouf have sex with Florence Pugh.
They wrapped on February 13th, 2021.
Okay, so yeah.
So
that would have been like
so if they had
2020 through 2021. Yeah.
Yeah, because it says the filming was halted temporarily for 2 weeks on November 4th after a crew tested positive for COVID-19.
So it was a long shoot.
Yeah. So that makes sense. That tracks then, because all of 2021 is when we were hearing about like speculation about Harry, because Dumois, as you both know, I love to follow, like she was on that story big time. Like she's like, they're totally dating. Here's photo proof. And no one else is talking about it. And then all of a sudden, the print mags are printing it online. Harry and Olivia dating. And I'm like, old news.
Also,
already knew.
I'm confused by everyone's confusion that you would, number one, be on a COVID set where you can only speak to the people that you were on set with because of testing and COVID and all of it.
The stars had to quarantine. Pugh, Styles, and Pine all had to be quarantined when that.
And be surprised that it just doesn't become a fuck fest because there's nothing else to do.
Especially if you're in Palm Springs. Like, I mean, Palm Springs has a lot going for it, but it's also the desert.
It's a
desert. If they're filming, so if they're filming in this winter, that's actually the best time to be in Palm Springs. But still, if the end of 2021 was everything open in California, I'm trying to remember, when did the state fully reopen? Mario, do you remember?
It was like probably right before summer hit. Like things started opening up.
Yeah, because I feel like some places were still. Oh my God, you guys! They were filming in Palm Springs when I was in Palm Springs. I just put that together.
Did you see them like I saw David Duchovny and Return to Me?
No, but I wish now I had known they were filming when I was there, because then I would have dragged those people I was with to find.
When I was a kid, I was at the Lincoln Park Zoo the day that they were filming Return to Me in the gorilla house. Haha, I still did it. But I really do think that like when we all collectively clutch our pearls because someone like fucked someone else on a movie, I was like, y'all never been in an office before. People fuck at work.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time at work and you have hormones and you have like hard-ons and all of it, and people fuck at work.
Well, and then too, when you're doing something like being on set or in a play is like summer camp. You're only doing it for so much time, and it's a different vibe, and you don't get it unless you've been there, kind of thing. Like when I came back from the summer art program, I met this guy from this small town, and I was like, oh, one of the gals on my floor when I went to this program is from there. And he's like, oh yeah, I know who she is. So you went there too? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh, was it as amazing as she talks about? And I was like, yeah.
Why is he so gross?
Because when you come back from this program, that's literally all you can talk about. It's an intensive art program for creatives. It's for high school kids. It's so amazing. I mean, it's been 20 years since I've been, and I still think about it, and I still think about how life-changing it was and eye-opening it was for me.
I hate when we demonize excitement. Like, what's that guy's deal? Get a hobby.
But also, like, I'm not validating his anger or saying it was right. I'm just saying, like, as a person who's been on the other side of the coin, where I'm like, I'm not a part of something, and that you are so adamant about, like, now that I've had experiences where I've been like, oh, this is a magical thing that I can't recreate, and I realize too that I'm chasing that still. Like, I want the magic. Like, I love having groups of people where we have a shared experience that no one else is a part of. And that's what art school was. And that's what sets are if you have a good set. And that's what a play, a stage play is if you have a good crew and a good cast. And, people who aren't involved don't get it. And I think that's what's hard. And it's the same with musicians, people in bands. Like, if you're not there, you don't always get it, because you are isolated. You are working with people 12 hours a day. You are sort of creating these bonds that are centered around something that you're very passionate about. So it's not, I don't know.
See, I've
And
never
it's not a thing where it's like, I'm going to be working here for 20 years, because you could be in the business for 20 years, but you have different teammates every 6 months.
No, I'm
3
still
months.
on team that guy's gross, because here's the thing. I can make a trip to Target magical. Maybe I'll make a PowerPoint and sell it for $200 a download about how to make the mundane magical, so that when someone gets to go to the Dungeons and Dragons premiere, you're not some salty little petty bitch who's like, I've never even seen a movie before, let alone go to a
Oh my God.
movie premiere. How dare you be excited about your exciting thing that you paid money for and worked at?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a 4-week long program. I don't remember, but you're gone for a long time. So there's growth that happens that
No.
people don't always understand. And that was what was hard for me coming back, is like, I just had this really awesome experience where I was around literally hundreds of other types of artists. And then to come back to Modesto and be like, I mean, we sat on grassy knolls and like wrote and draw while the musicians played, while the filmmakers were making movies. And like, it was, I just wish that was my whole life all the time.
I mean, you can come and visit Cox Arboretum. It's 2 minutes up the hill. It's got ducks. It's got koi fish. It's got giant dinosaur turtles. It's always got some lady doing yoga, someone doing a photo art exhibit, like just like taking wildlife photos. Someone's always got an acoustic guitar, and someone's always having an adorable picnic. It's literally the perfect metro park.
That's cute. But I mean, like, you're like becoming friends with filmmakers, future filmmakers, and doing all these things. And then you live in the dorms together and you eat your meals together. And then you go to the cafe to listen to whatever band is playing. And then if you're 18, like I am, you're walking across the street to the store to buy everybody cigarettes because no one's old enough but you.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
I hope that was that guy like romantically linked to that girl, because I hope she dumped him. And if she didn't, she needs to call me.
I don't know. It was 20 years ago. I am not sure.
We
But,
don't have sex with men who don't appreciate our joy.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just,
We
it was
don't do
it was totally random how I met him, because I'd never met anybody else from that tiny town before. And we were at a punk show.
We don't buy birthday cards for bitches who don't enjoy our joy, and we don't fuck men who don't enjoy our joy. And that's the moral of the movie. But yeah, I mean, what was your favorite rumor, Mario? I get confused when people are like, what do you mean people have sex? Give me some simmering petty any day against a rampant sexual desire for Harry Styles.
My favorite was when Florence Pugh and Olivia Wilde had a screen match.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, dang, that'd be
'Cause
fun to watch.
Number one, it took me right back to like Joan Crawford and who was she
What's her name? Yeah.
Who is she famously always in a feud with? They just
It
did
was,
like
it was a show too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just
did a
it. It's
show
called,
on it.
they called
The
it Joan
Feud.
and Betty. Betty, was it Betty Davis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like just like the fact, well, number one, the movie takes place in a time where women really had to feel like they were in competition to one another. And then that mirrored the fact that we kept pinning Olivia and Flo
Yeah.
against one another. And we're like, you're just making Olivia's point.
Yeah, I know. You know what? That could totally be, part of the, if it was all planted gossip, that's, part of the plan. I do think it would be interesting to see, only because they're like a foot apart. When people who are like abnormally heighted from each other are fighting, you're just like, how? You're a foot taller. Why are you fighting?
Florence would win though, because she has all that stunt training from
scrappy.
Marvel.
For Black Widow, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
so
true.
she's like, I'd take you and just destroy you.
With
but
my
I feel like Olivia
thighs.
would fight dirty She would fight dirty or something.
Yeah.
Like she'd bring out one of those brass knuckles and just like
Scrappy.
suck her
Olivia
butts
Wilde and I have the same birthday, so yes, I will concur. I will agree with you. I feel like she would fight dirty because I would fight dirty if I needed to.
No.
You're not gonna put the "we don't fuck people who don't enjoy our joy" either. It's just the birthday cards.
It's just the birthday
I
cards.
feel like you missed the most important part of the lesson.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
I did. I thought that another juicy one was when Olivia was saying that Shia got fired.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He quit.
Yeah.
And then that video popped up of her like trying to convince him to come back.
Yeah, like
I was
didn't
like, girl,
Shia
you're just
send that video to Variety?
He was like, I got receipts, and I'm just like, girl, you're just digging yourself a hole right here.
The only time I've ever wanted to talk to Shia LaBeouf is to like figure out, like, let me see your phone.
Yeah.
Just let me see your phone.
What's
like, don't be weird
timestamp?
about it. Just
What's the
like
date
don't
and timestamp. Yeah.
Like, don't be weird about it. Like, no, I don't want you to show me your phone. I want it in my hand and I want to scroll through it. Don't be weird about it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
just let me see your phone. I won't tell anybody, but I would like to know. I won't tell anybody, but I would like to know. Well, and then
and
like
I thought he was booted out of Hollywood. Like when was he gracefully received back?
I think when he played his abusive father in Honey Boo Boo or whatever that movie was called. It wasn't Honey Boo Boo. It was like Honey Child.
What? How about I have no knowledge of what you're talking about?
I haven't watched that movie yet, but I am obsessed that, like, number one, Shia LaBeouf told his abusive father,
Honey Boy,
that he was going to do this movie. And his father said, oh, who's going to play me? And then Shia LaBeouf went, don't worry, it's going to be Brad Pitt or someone else ridiculous. And then Shia LaBeouf went so meta that he played his own abusive father abusing a tinier Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It has big Jeanette McCurdy energy to it.
That book. Oh my God.
And so I think then people were like,
it went into the second printing within like a month. Yeah. That's unheard of.
So I think people were like, oh, Shia, come on, you serious? You better than that kid from Suburbia. Come on. And so they welcomed him back. And then like, I like how he tried to blame Flo for like Shia LaBeouf not being in this movie, like it was going to make or break the movie, where it was like, well, I too would be kind of freaked out if I had to work with Shia LaBeouf. You don't always know how he is.
Is he a method actor?
I believe so.
Yeah, working with a method actor in a film that's got emotional abuse in it, I can't even imagine. It being method is a rare form anymore anyway. I get it because it is easier to go into your character and stay there while you're doing the whole day or week or months or whatever you choose to however you choose to interpret that, because it is hard to go in and out. Like it's not hard, like it's a hard thing to do. It's just emotionally taxing on you when you are playing a shitty character to go constantly in and out between takes.
I would also like love for the mystery to be solved for me on whether or not Flo complained, because I like the vibe that I'm getting is that like Shia LaBeouf showed up to set and that like Florence Pugh wasn't like warm, but she wasn't like cold.
Well, and she's British, so I mean, it's not like they're the most welcoming of people. They conquered the world.
And then Shai went, "You hate me," and then Flo like tried 2 or 3 times to be like, "I don't hate you. I just have like shit going on. We don't have to hang out.
Yeah,
it's also a pandemic." And he was like, "You hate me," and then he had some like tantrum and then quit. I don't even think she complained about him. I don't even think that they were filming for her to complain about it.
Yeah, because I got the impression that they hadn't started filming yet when he was replaced. But I don't know. Okay. Final question of the night. What's your comfort level with this movie?
Oh, that's the final question of the night. I have a question.
Wait, okay, go ahead, Mario.
So, because in the beginning, this was going to be such an award-winning movie with like noms for everything. Do you think there's still awards chances at all for this film?
No, I think they
Or do
fucked
you think
it.
it's going to be like, because of all the drama, because of
Yeah,
the
I
critical response, it's like, we're never going to hear about this movie again
I
after.
I think once they rolled in the circus tent, that they really fucked it, because now I
Mm.
think what it did was it put into people's mind like this was a movie that they had to start a circus about to be a shit show, and therefore the movie is a shit show. So all
Mm.
people are going to be doing is talking about what a big shit show this was for all of that drama to happen.
Well, and
Okay.
when you read the reviews, they're all citing some facet of the drama around it. What I think is kind of a shame is that they decided to release the film in September rather than in December, so that way you're because a lot of the films that get released between December 21st and December, because the last day to enter for the Academy Awards, you have to run for so many days, and you have to be in theaters in LA and New York by December 25th, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think is how it works. And it's a shame that they didn't do it at Christmas, because then you're more in the forefront when it comes to like, okay, now we're going to start nominating. Whereas in September, everything that's like September forward mostly gets forgotten. So regardless of the drama, I feel like it had the potential to get forgotten regardless of drama around it. I don't think the drama is gonna help. Like, what the year that Get Out got nominated, right, for best
Mhm.
screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
When that
Mhm.
got nominated, I was like, yo, that movie dropped in February. Like, who the fuck remembered? Like, good job. Because movies in February don't get recognized. You don't drop the
Mhm.
blockbuster award winning films in February. You don't really do that. That's not a thing January through like May, because Memorial
No.
Day weekend is when you start sort of seeing the bigger films that maybe a contender, maybe, but are still forgotten about. And it's, Thanksgiving weekend through the end of through Christmas Day is when you see everything that's getting released that they really think is going to be a contender. And I think it's a shame that the studio didn't drop it in that window rather
Well,
than in September.
and I
Because
think that
Florence, again, I go back to Florence Pugh's performance is so flawless. It is a lesson in how to perform. And the chances of her getting overlooked are greater now.
yeah. I think I think it's really unfortunate that they had to roll out the circus tent, but I also think it's unfortunate that they're getting so much fire for rolling out a circus tent where we've seen circus tents before and we've ignored them.
Yeah. What do you think, Mario?
I was really thinking about this too because I was like, dang, like you said, her role was flawless, and it was like, oh, she deserves the best actress. And I see possibly Golden Globes
Oh,
since they are
yeah.
since
Yeah.
they are bringing Golden Globes back, and
Mhm.
Golden Globes tend to, share the love with movies that people don't remember or
Right.
movies that weren't good. I mean, they always refer back to the why was the tourist rated for, running for best picture when it was like the worst
Right.
movie of the year.
Right.
Um, so I'm hoping that the Golden Globes will shine some light on the film, like whether it's just Florence Pugh. I hope, and I feel like if they do, it might bring some attention to the Oscars.
Right.
I don't see her getting a nom. I think the competition this year is just
It's too tough.
it's too
Well,
tough, and because of all the drama behind it, I feel like it did hurt its chances.
Mhm.
But I see a couple noms for Golden Globes. That is my
Yeah.
prediction,
well,
I
and I'm
because
do
hoping.
Golden Globes does a nice job of ignoring whether, because like the Oscars, it's like these same six films will be
Yeah,
best picture noms and
Mhm.
best score noms and best
yeah,
actor nom.
yeah,
So Golden Globes is more of like a family reunion grab bag
yeah.
buffet
Mhm.
where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, don't worry, Darlene, may have been an okay movie, but Florence Pugh did a really good job, so let's at least recognize her. And it's
Yeah.
fine for them to just nominate her for that one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? Screen Actors Guild's really good at too, because it is only about performances and actors rather than
Mhm.
everything else. I would like to see the costume designer nominated because I
Yeah.
think she did a really great job. I think there's a lot of symbolism in the costumes that, you know, we didn't talk about tonight, but that's okay. We can do it another day. And I think that the set designer did a fantastic job of creating a world that feels idyllic and like it
Haunting.
and
At the
haunting.
same
And
time.
but at the same time, I feel like Lucille Ball is going to show up with Desi Arnaz at any minute because that's what celebrities did. They ran off to Palm Springs or Palm Desert to get away from Hollywood, right? So to create that feel for like this is where we recoup so we can have another version of our life, like holy shit, give that person a nomination for something.
Well, it's also one of the rare psychological thrillers where I myself wasn't tense or stressed throughout the movie. And I think that was also intentional because
Mhm.
it's like, why would you be stressed? You're with us in paradise.
Yeah.
So you're not really stressed until she's hitting him on the head. And you're like,
Right.
oh, Flo, we done did it.
Right. Right. So I think it will be sad if it doesn't get any recognition at all. You know, obviously like Olivia Wilde's going to get ignored for director nods because that's just
Because
how
she
it works
does.
with women and directors in Hollywood. But I
Yeah.
would, you know, it'd be nice to see like you say Mario, a Golden Globe or even a Screen Actors Guild.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to your question.
Okay, did you get all your questions in, Mario?
I did.
I'm
I did.
sorry,
I
I
did.
didn't mean to ignore
No,
you.
you're good.
Okay. Now back to our final question of the night. What is your comfort level with this film?
I feel like
I
Don't
know.
Worry, Darling made me comfortable in a very uncomfortable way.
Mm.
Because again, it served a lot of affirmation for what I think about the world at large, anyways, and where women are currently in our culture and society and the value that we hold, and whether or not it's actually gotten better.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so it's uncomfortable to sit in a movie and go, huh, I fully believe that at any moment, some petty rich man could body snatch me and put me in a simulation if he wanted that much control over me. Like, but it's also comforting to know that I'm right and I'm on top of the game and that you can't play me because I already know your game. But it also, like Olivia Wilde's, or not Olivia, Gemma Chan's character makes me uncomfortable because she's one of those women who links herself with powerful men to be like, and this is how I will leech my power. And
Mm.
Olivia Wilde is allowed to ignore the suffering of other women so she herself can be comfortable. And these are very much real things that happen. So it was a very affirming movie for me. Like I left fist pumping. I was like, I fucking knew it. This is how they see us. I want to march. So there.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Everyone's wrong and a hater.
What about you, Mario?
Um, I'm comfortable with the uncomfortability,
Mm-hmm.
I guess. Because I mean, it's a tale as old as time, really. It's just very modern, and we see it all the time. And even as a man, I see it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like some of these guys, you're like, do better, please.
Yeah.
Like, but
Andrew
I'm one of the
Tate,
minority. I'm one of the minority. I feel like.
Joe Rogan looking at you.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy the movie a lot more than I thought I would. I'm just like I said, I'm sad that all the behind the scenes drama,
Mm-hmm.
kind
Mm-hmm.
of overshadow this film because I think a lot more people would have loved it if
Yeah.
they didn't know all the drama. So,
Yeah. Yeah, like that writer from before that I mentioned from the New York Times, her daughter knew nothing about any of the drama, walked into it blind and walked out going, "I love this film."
It was a movie that I wanted to see from the very first time a trailer dropped on it.
Yeah, same. I also feel very comfortable with this film for so many reasons, and I feel like, you know, they did a really good job I walked out like Natalie. I walked out thinking, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not the only person on the planet that sees it. Like, this is so validating. It's just like in our Thelma and Louise episode. It's
Yeah.
upsetting that we still have to, like, these things are still relevant today and we haven't made much progress. But at the same time, you know, a movie like this wouldn't have been able to be made 30 years ago. And so that's a form of progress, if you will. And I loved it.
I have a follow-up comfy question.
Okay.
How comfy are we with living and knowing that there is a possibility that the drama was staged? Because for me, I'm like, roll the dice on that. Like, if you knew that your movie was on the fence and it was like, it might pull a crowd, it might not, it's actually probably going to piss off a lot of people, roll the dice with your Harry Styles drama and see if you can get girls in your theater just be like, he may spit on Chris Pine.
I don't know if it was. I really don't think it was fabricated. I think it may have been exaggerated a
Yeah.
little more than But I feel like there was tension there. I felt like people didn't like each other at certain points, or people were tired of their.
It will make
Because you see, Chris Pine, Florence Pugh didn't do any press for it.
Right.
Like
he's not a
usually
very
you're
social media person.
No,
but
but
even
he
though
usually
you're
does press
still
for his stuff. Like, he's
yeah.
never one to shy away from the junket.
No.
Or at
So
least
to
in my
see that, and
experience with that, yeah.
even seeing like them at the Venice Film Festival, where they kind of were just like civil, but they weren't
Yeah.
like compared to other films where everyone was like hugging each other.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
it's
the
so good to
bullet
see you
train
again.
cast. Oh my God, you
Yeah,
could not keep those guys off each other.
but it was just like, like
Well, I also have to wonder, like, how much we have to chalk up a set's dynamic to being a COVID heavy set dynamic. So it's like, how well are you allowed to get to know yourselves, or how
Well,
easy is it to snipe with one another if you're quarantining together?
but I think that, you know, goes back to a lot of other things too. Like Mario was saying, some of the casts from other films that debuted at Venice and Toronto and what have you, they don't have a chemistry problem. You know,
No.
you see them on stage and they're reuniting on the red carpet like it's their long lost brother that they've missed forever. I'm also on the fence on whether or not the drama was staged, because again, I go back to, you know, my obsession with Dumas and some of the stuff that she posts and some of the stuff that the other gossip rags post. And then, you know, with Dumas, at least she comes back and says, you guys, I don't vet any of this information. So whatever you share with me and I share it out, take it with a grain of salt. But the following that the gossip rags have, people aren't taking it with a grain of salt. They're taking what is being posted and running with it. And it just, we live in the age where everything becomes wildfire because everybody has a computer and a camera in their hand.
Well, and the unfortunate thing is, whether or not they liked one another, the movie got made and the movie was a good movie.
Yeah.
So I think we also have to let go of this expectation that like everyone should be making out with one another and that's how we support one another. They supported one another by showing up and doing their job. So
Right.
I will be sad if Olivia Wilde and Florence Pugh like literally are women who can't be in the room with other
With each
talented women,
other.
because it's like I don't get that vibe from Florence because she was in the like Little Woman reboot.
Well, and when she
And
was reunited with Scarlett Johansson on the
yeah,
Black Widow, you know, for Black Widow on the red carpet, there wasn't an issue. It was like
yeah.
sisters being reunited. And, you
So
know, go
I
ahead.
will be sad if that's Olivia's story.
I don't know if it's Olivia's story per se, but I do know there are some women on this planet that I cannot be in the same room with because we do not jive.
Right. And I
And
think that's
that's
valid.
fine. And I hope to God I never have to work with them, because if I do, and if we were famous, there will be tabloid headlines about screaming matches, even though we spoke tersely to each other, because that's probably what happened. They were probably just curtly speaking to each other and someone was like, they were screaming at each other.
Well, I also think that a lot of the reason why we have conflict management issues in our society is because we still play with kindergarten rules, like sharing is caring, make new friends but keep the old. Like
Yeah.
everyone has to be a friend. Everybody has to get along and do after work drinks and happy hour and
Yeah.
coworker karaoke night. And it's like some people literally just want to do their job and go home.
Yeah, like I've never subscribed to being friends with my coworkers. I've actually seen coworkers take each other down and get like BFF, bestie, best friend coworkers. And then when it comes down to it, who's getting fired, one of them throws the other one under the bus. And so, that was in my formative career. So after that, I was like, I will never become close friends with anybody I work with because you could turn on me. All right, friends. Mario, tell us where everyone can find you if they want to keep up with you online.
You can follow me on my Instagram page at Movies with Mr. Mario, where I do movie reviews and keep up with the latest movie news, gossip, and entertainment.
Did you do a review for Don't Worry Darling, or were you waiting until
I
after
was
tonight?
I was gonna wait till after tonight because I
Okay,
didn't want to.
we will reshare it on
We
the
will reshare
pop
it.
culture because I would love to see your grade. I don't want you to give it to us now because I want everyone to go to your page to see what your grade is.
Okay.
And if you've been hoping that my freak flag would fly and I would get to talk about scary movies more on the internet, Mario is giving me that platform to do it.
Yes.
All right, Natalie, where can we
Hi,
find you?
I'm Natalie Katona. I wore a bow in my hair as a nod to the 50s.
Yeah.
I'm your host of To All the Men I've Tolerated Before, which means each week you can hear me give you clues as to why we might wake up to The Handmaid's Tale or Don't Worry, Darling. It's really a roll of the dice. This week is the last week of the month, so it will be one of our fireside live shows that will be released on wherever you can find podcasts, and it is Elizabeth Kyle and I putting Sean Hunter and Dawson Leary on trial on who was the worst 90s protagonist, Sean or Dawson. Last week was me and Katie Ploss talking about what it feels like to be healed from your worst relationship. We have merch. It's cute. Look how colorful that is. Merch.
And you friends, you know me. I'm your host of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous, where we analyze pop culture through the lens of race or gender and sometimes both. We are still currently in rebroadcast mode. New season will drop October 11th, 12th. Season 4
It's a Wednesday.
is Wednesday. So October 12th. And season 4 is all about wealthy women in the media. And we have guests. These two people right now are guests in season 4, and it's very exciting. So you'll want to make sure that on October 12th, you have subscribed to our channel by then. So that way you can watch or tune into the season. Also, tomorrow night, Natalie and I will be on Instagram talking about episodes 4, 5, and 6 of season 2 of One Tree Hill and what is happening. You have to tune in because I got questions.
Oh, I got to listen while I was making Penelope's Crystal Shop house for Halloween. I got to listen to the girls interview Paul Johansson, who played Dan Scott, and they cried because he's such a lovely human being. So, like, if he wants to talk to us about Dan Scott,
I struggle with people claim to be lovely human beings, but then play horrible characters on TV. There's a part of you that is a shitty person if you can play a shitty person that well.
It is truly my greatest joy when I know that you can play a dirtbag, but you are a teddy bear. Like, it is my greatest joy to know that he is a wonderful human being. So shout out to the Drama Queens podcast.
Nice.
But yeah, that's at Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram. And Mario and I even get to be on an episode of Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous together because I elbowed my way into a movie that I like. I was like, make room for me.
Yes. And like I said, new season starts October 12th. We also have merch as well in the merch store. We have seasonal stuff right now out, as does Natalie. So you want to nab those seasonal items before they go away.
I love Halloween.
Yes.
Mario's wearing Halloween merch, right?
Yes. Scary movies are my vibe. Yeah. That's yep. And so tune in tomorrow night. Oh yeah. Well, and Pop Culture Makes Me Jealous as a book club. You should join the book club. And if you're a pal on Patreon, you actually get voting rights and access to the replay. Everyone else, you have to show up live. But that's not the point. We only we read books that have been adapted to screen. That is the theme of our book club. And let's see. I think that's it, y'all. The next Still Comfy next week, right? Next week
Yes.
is we are capping our Instagram series of the new Prime Original A League of Their Own with the OG A League of Their Own with Gina Davis, the one and only League of Their Own
The better League of Their Own.
informed exactly my identity politics. That is next week on Natalie's channel. And I think that's everything we got going on in the next 2 weeks. So be sure to subscribe to Mario's channel on Instagram, our channels, all the things, so you never miss a live show or whatever it is that we're talking about, because you know you want it. Friends, until next time, we will see you in the DMs.
See you tomorrow night on the River Court, and stay cozy, stay comfy.